A reading from the book of the prophet Ezekiel. The destruction of Judah, Ezekiel's vision and mission. Chapter 1. In the 30th year, on the 5th day of the 4th month, as I was among the exiles by the river Kebar, heaven opened, and I saw visions of God. On the 5th of the month, it was the 5th year of exile for King Jehoiakim. The word of the Lord came to the priest Ezekiel, son of Buzi, in Chaldea by the river Kebar. The vision of the chariot of the Lord. There the hand of the Lord came on me. I looked. A stormy wind came from the north, a great cloud with flashing fire and a brilliant light around it. And in the middle, in the heart of the fire, a brilliance like that of amber. And in the middle, what seemed to be 4 living creatures. They looked like this. They were of human form. Each had 4 faces. Each had 4 wings. Their legs were straight. They had hooves like calves, glittering like polished brass. Below their wings, they had human hands on all 4 sides, corresponding to their 4 faces and 4 wings. They touched one another with their wings. They did not turn as they moved. Each one moved straight forward. As to the appearance of their faces, all 4 had a human face and a lion's face to the right, and all 4 had a bull's face to the left, and all 4 had an eagle's face. Their wings were spread above. Each had 1 pair touching its neighbors, and the other pair covering its body. And each one moved straight forward. They went where the Spirit urged them. They did not turn as they moved. Between these living creatures was what looked like blazing coals, like torches, darting backwards and forwards between the living creatures. The fire gave a brilliant light, and lightning flashed from the fire. And the living creatures kept disappearing and reappearing like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel touching the ground beside each of the 4-faced living creatures. The appearance and structure of the wheels were like glittering chrysolite. All 4 looked alike, and their appearance and structure were such that each wheel seemed to have another wheel inside it. In whichever of the 4 directions they moved, they did not turn as they moved. Their circumference was of awe-inspiring size, and the rims of all 4 sparkled all the way round. When the living creatures moved, the wheels moved beside them. And when the living creatures left the ground, the wheels too left the ground. They moved in whichever direction the Spirit chose to go, and the wheels rose with them, since the wheels shared the spirit of the animals. When the living creatures moved on, they moved on. When the living creatures halted, the wheels halted. When the living creatures left the ground, the wheels too left the ground, since The spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Over the heads of the living creatures was what looked like a dome, glittering like crystal, spread out over their heads above them. And under the dome, their wings were spread out straight, touching one another, and each had a pair covering its body. I also heard the sound of their wings when they moved. It was like the sound of floodwaters, like the voice of Shaddai, like the sound of a storm, like the sound of an armed camp. And when they halted, they lowered their wings. There was a voice too, and above the dome over their heads there was what seemed like a sapphire in the form of a throne. High above, on the form of a throne, was something like the appearance of a human being. I saw a brilliance like amber, like fire, radiating from what appeared to be the waist upwards. And from what appeared to be the waist downwards, I saw what looked like fire, giving a brilliant light all round. The radiance of the encircling light was like the radiance of the bow in the clouds on a rainy day. The sight was like the glory of the Lord. I looked and fell on my face, and I heard the voice of someone speaking. The word of the Lord. A reading from the book of the prophet Ezekiel, chapter 2, the vision of the scroll. He said, "Son of man, get to your feet, I will speak to you." As he said these words, the Spirit came into me and put me on my feet, and I heard him speaking to me. He said, "Son of man, I am sending you to the Israelites, to the rebels who have rebelled against me. They and their ancestors have been in revolt against me up to the present day. Because their descendants are stubborn and obstinate, I am sending you to them to say, 'Thus says the Lord God,' whether they listen or not. Since they are a house of rebels, they will know there is a prophet among them. And you, son of man, do not be afraid of them or of what they say, though you find yourself surrounded with brambles and living among scorpions. Do not be afraid of their words or alarmed by their looks, for they are a house of rebels. You shall speak my words to them whether they listen or not, for they are a house of rebels. But you, son of man, are to listen to what I say to you. Do not be a rebel like that house of rebels. Open your mouth and eat what I am about to give you." I looked, and there was a hand stretching out to me, holding a written scroll. He unrolled it in front of me. It was written on front and back. On it were written lamentations, dirges, and cries of woe. The word of the Lord.